What's up everyone, my name is Miles and this is the Make with Miles channel, and today I'm going to be showing you how to turn a super cheap pair of sunglasses like these into something more stylish like this. Let's go. Let's go. I've been wanting to make a pair of shades for a while now, but I didn't want them to look like all the other wooden sunglasses out there, so I decided I would try and make them out of recycled skateboards. This is the pair of cheap sunglasses which I'll be using for parts. I'd say they're pretty good quality for the price, so I've added a link in the description in case you want to go check them out. Because I'll be sacrificing a good pair of sunglasses frames, I felt like using the broken skateboards would be a great way to repurpose something else which would have been thrown away. I started processing the decks by removing the grip tape and afterwards grinding away the graphics using an abrasive metal disc on my angle grinder. After cutting off the nose and tail of the boards, I ripped them into strips for making the blank. Some of you may have been wondering about the strength of making something so thin out of recycled skateboards, and this is the reason why I decided to use Total Boat Thickset epoxy for this glue up. The great thing about using epoxy to glue up skateboards is that it fills any gaps or cracks from the inconsistency of the decks. I ended up getting a fantastic result from this glue up. Big thank you to the kind folks over at Total Boat for supplying the epoxy for this project. After unclamping the blank, I resawed it on the bandsaw to get one flat face for reference. Now that I have my blank of skateboards all milled up, the next thing I'm going to be doing is taking apart my pair of sunglasses so I can easily mark out the cut lines on the blank itself. After removing the arms and lenses, I traced the top profile of the frames onto the blank. This was pretty tricky to get an accurate outline, but I ended up refining my lines by hand after I got the rough shape traced out. Now that I had the top profile cut out, I traced out the front profile of the frames and cut it out on the bandsaw. Next, it was time to remove the inside material for where the lenses would go. I wasn't too sure of how to go about this, so I ended up using a large Forstner bit on the drill press to remove most of the material. I then used the jigsaw to cut right outside the lines that I traced, and this worked pretty well, albeit a little bit sketchy. After sanding up to the lines, the time had come for refining and shaping the frames. This was the part I was most looking forward to, and the final result really came down to my skill level and patience. After doing some final shaping with files and sandpaper, it was time for the part I was least looking forward to. I'm about to cut the slot around the inside for the lenses to pop into. This is probably the most stressful part. This ended up going pretty smoothly, and it wasn't quite as scary as I had initially thought. At this point, it was time to set aside the frames and get to work on making the arms. I repeated the process of tracing out the top view and then cut out the shape on the bandsaw. Next, I laid out the two arms on my blank and traced the side view. The final result of the arms once again depended on how well I was able to shape them. I used the spindle sander for about 90% of this process, and I really took advantage of the larger size spindle to thin out the arms and shape the contours. Now that I have the frames and the arms sanded up to 320 grit, the next thing is going to be applying the finish. For finish, I'm going to be using some Total Boat Halcyon varnish, mainly because it's super durable and I think it's going to really make the colors of the skateboards pop. Let's get to it. This part of the build went fairly smoothly, and I ended up applying about 3 coats of the Halcyon for a nice durable finish. Okay, so now that I'm waiting for the finish to dry, I'm going to get started on removing the hinges from the original plastic frames. For that, I'm going to attempt to use a propane torch and melt the plastic so I can pull the hinges out easily. While I'm at it, I'm also going to pull out these little chrome pieces. I'm not sure what they're called, but if you know, definitely put it in the comments below because I'm super curious. Boom. That was pretty easy. The usability of these sunglasses really hinged upon the alignment of the arms, no pun intended. I ended up first attaching one half of the hinge to the arms, and then I was able to drill the cavity for the other side of the hinge on the frame. Off camera, I ended up using some blue tape to hold this in place while the epoxy cured. After adding the little chrome pieces and inserting the lenses, this build was complete. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much. I really had a blast making this project, and I also had a lot of fun with the filming and the editing. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button. Also, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss my next build video, because I think it's going to be probably one of my favorite projects to date. I think that about wraps it up for this video. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.